Hi everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a tag video all about my bookish preferences. So I saw this video on Angela's channel, I will leave a link to her channel below, and I think she originally got it from Murphy's channel, which again I will link below. I'm not sure if it started out as a tag or if Angela just made it into one, but it's a tag now and I'm going to be doing it. So there are 10 questions, let's get into them. The first one is, which perspective is your favourite? Meaning first, second or third. I have to say, if you had asked me this question a few years ago, I probably would have said first, but I definitely prefer third person now. I do really enjoy second person as well, depending on the book. The 5th season did this perspective really well. You was also okay and it was an interesting take, but consistently third person is my favourite. I don't really like first person all that much anymore. I do still read a lot of YA books that have first person, but I do find myself not really connecting with the characters as much for some reason. I just prefer third person points of view. The second question is, which format is your favourite? And I tend to prefer paperbacks, but only the floppy ones. I think hardbacks would look really nice on the shelf, but they're difficult to read and the dust jackets have to come off while I'm reading them, so that's a bit frustrating. I also don't like how expensive they are. I just really like the floppiness of the paperbacks. I like that they will just sit open as I'm reading them, unless they're UK paperbacks, because those are for some reason really tightly bound and that annoys me. I don't know why we do that. I also quite like audiobooks, but mostly only for non-fiction. I really struggle to get into fiction audiobooks for some reason. I think it's to do with kind of visualizing the world. I prefer to do that at my own pace, at my own speed, and with my own kind of tone and inflections upon the words rather than having it read to me. But I do really enjoy listening to non-fiction while I'm running or while I'm driving. The third question is, do you prefer a character or plot focused book? And again, this is something that if you had asked me a few years ago, my answer would have been entirely different. Years ago, I definitely would have preferred a plot based book, and that's definitely something that I would have answered in one of these tag videos. But now I definitely prefer the characters. I enjoy the relationships between the characters. I enjoy reading about the characters' journey. I just think it's a lot more enjoyable if the book is character based, because then they can be going through all of these things but you also feel a lot for them, which I think is quite important if you're reading a book from their point of view. So character based for me. Number 4 is, do you care about prose? And yeah, but that's because a book is prose. I care about it in that if a book is poorly written, I will notice, and no decent plot is going to save a poorly written book. But I think that all comes into the way the book is woven together, and you can have a really well written book and have it still be quite boring. I really don't like flowery prose, for example, because I do find that quite dull. I just kind of want the author to get to the point. So yeah, I do care about prose. I also care about good grammar. Poor grammar will take me out of the plot completely, but I also don't like it when authors kind of throw in big words for the sake of it. There's just no need for that. Question number 5 is, how introspective do you want your characters to be? My answer for that is quite, but I'm not too bothered if they're not. It depends on the character and the plot, really. I don't really have a solid answer for this one. Question number 6 is, how do you like your relationships? I like them to be there. I like them to be slow burns. I like them to be snarky. I really enjoy not enemies to lovers, but kind of frustrated frenemies to lovers, that kind of thing. I also love friends to lovers as well, because I think that's a really cute plot point, and I think the relationships then can develop really well. So I like a lot of relationships, and because I enjoy character-based books as well, I think that the relationships are also quite important to me. But if it's a romantic relationship, I do prefer it to be slow burn. If I'm reading a series, for example, I don't want the characters to get together in the first book, especially if they're only going to break up again in the second. I want their relationship to grow throughout and then maybe get together in the second book of a trilogy, or even the third book I would also be fine with. But then if I ship them, I want to see them together for a bit as well. So definitely no characters getting together in the first book in a series. If a series is longer, like maybe 5-6 books, then they can take ages to get together, as long as they have some really fun and flirty scenes together. If there's a lot of chemistry there, I'm willing to wait. I blame the Vampire Diaries for this, because Damon and Elena took absolutely forever to get together, and when they did, I quit the show, but that was kind of unrelated. So yeah, I like the slow burn, I like the snark, I like the chemistry, and I don't like it when they rush into things. I also really don't like, this is kind of going off on a tangent, but I don't like it when there's the second act breakup. So when the characters are together quite early on with like sort of insta-lovey vibes, and then some kind of conflict comes up and they break up just before the third act starts, and then they get together again by the end of the book. So they spend that whole third act of the book not together because something stupid has happened, and I really don't enjoy that. It frustrates me so much. It happens in so many romance books. I can't tell you a romance book that it hasn't happened in, and that annoys me. Question 7 is, do you like a lot of description? Yes, but only if it's kind of world building description. I think Angela said something similar. I really enjoy a lot of descriptions about world building as long as it's kind of spaced throughout the book rather than info dumpy. I don't care about what kind of car the main character is driving unless it's relevant to the plot. I don't care about the colour. I don't care about what they ate for breakfast and things like that, especially if, you know, the writer is telling us exactly how they're eating that breakfast and how they cooked it. That kind of description really doesn't excite me, I guess. I do enjoy descriptions of the characters, but I do tend to make up their appearances in my head. So quite often I will just make up how a character will look and that will stick with me rather than reading descriptions about them. So in my head their hair colour could be completely different than what it actually is. I've noticed that for whatever reason characters I don't like tend to be blonde and characters that I love tend to be dark haired in my head. I don't know why. It's been happening for years and I haven't figured it out. Question 8 is, do you prefer standalones or series? And I really don't know. I don't know how to answer this question. I've been thinking about it for a while and I really like standalones in thrillers and contemporary books, but I like series in fantasy and sci-fi. I do get quite disappointed if I find out that a book is a standalone fantasy book because I feel like there's a lot you can do with that world building and those characters. And so I think it really depends on the genre, but also I get a bit intimidated by series. If series don't have like an end in sight, again, I think Angela said something similar, like Game of Thrones, for example, or Song of Ice and Fire, I'm very hesitant to get into it now because that series has kind of burnt me. But I do really enjoy series and discovering more about the world building and also following the characters along their journeys, because I do, like I said, really enjoy character-based books. It's really nice to follow them along a series and you can see from where they started to where they end. For example, in the City of Brass, David Bad series, following Nari going from the City of Brass to the Empire of Gold was an incredible experience and it wouldn't have been the same in a standalone book. So I don't really have a set answer for this one. I'm probably just going to say that it depends on the genre. I probably won't read many thriller series because I don't really like those serial cop drama things. I'm going to try Jack Reacher at some point, but I have a feeling I'm not going to love it because I'm not really into procedural stuff, but I'm going to give it a go. Question 9 is, do you prefer single point of view or multiple points of view? To be honest, I think I prefer multiple, but it definitely, again, depends on the book and what the author is trying to do with the story. There are some examples of series or books that probably would have benefited from multiple points of views. I think in standalone contemporary books, I probably prefer single points of view unless it's a very well-constructed thriller plot. But in series, especially fantasy series, I tend to prefer multiple points of view because I think they add a lot to the plot and the storytelling. For example, I think using David Bad again, I don't think that would have been the same without the different points of view. And on the other end of the spectrum, there's the Poppy War series, which I think really would have benefited from following someone else other than just Rin, particularly in The Burning God when the world kind of expanded. I think adding another point of view in there would have been really beneficial, and instead I just found it quite boring because we were just stuck with Rin the entire time. So again, I think it depends on the book. I don't really have a strong preference either way. I'm not going to not pick up a book just because it's single or multiple points of view. I think it definitely depends on the author and on the story and how they're going to deal with it. And finally, question 10 is, do you prefer a strong start, middle or finish? My answer for this one is I prefer it all to be strong. But if I had to choose, I would probably say I prefer a strong start and then a strong ending. If the middle kind of meanders a little bit, I can deal with that if I know that the ending is going to be good because that's what other people have said, or because I've really enjoyed the beginning of the book and I've grown attached to the characters or the mystery or the world building or whatever it is. I've grown attached to something, and so I'm willing to put up with a bit of a weaker middle. If the start isn't strong, I'm probably not going to carry on with the book, so that has to be well done for me. And if it's not, then I'm either going to go into the rest of the book knowing that, or thinking that it's not going to be very good and it's going to put me off and I'm going to read it with kind of tinted lenses or tinted expectations, or I'm just going to DNF it. And then if the ending isn't a strong ending, then I'm just going to spend the entire time being disappointed, and then I'm probably never going to read that author again. Endings are quite important to me. For example, especially series endings, not necessarily like book endings, but series endings have to be really, really good. Otherwise, I do have like my opinion of that author's works tainted, and then I don't really want to commit to another series from them because it could turn out to be terrible. And then again, in thrillers as well, the entire point of reading a thriller is to get to the ending and have it kind of blow your socks off, and if it doesn't, that's quite disappointing. If it's a rubbish twist or there's not a twist there at all, or the entire thing is completely ridiculous, then what's the point in reading that thriller? Because you're reading those thrillers to get to the end rather than experiencing the journey, if that makes sense. Whereas with fantasy books, I think the journey is quite important for me. It's a little bit different, again, depending on the genre. But yeah, if the ending kind of fizzles out, then that always disappoints me. And while I may have enjoyed the start and the middle, if the ending is crap, then that's going to be the last thing that I've read to do with that book, and it's going to be really disappointing. So again, this is a mixed one. It doesn't really have a clear-cut answer, but those are my feelings. So those are my answers for that tag. Hopefully Hopefully I didn't waffle on too much, but it doesn't look like this video is going to turn out too long, so that's good. Let me know what your opinions are in the comments below. I will try to remember to leave a list of the questions in the description in case you want to check out this tag as well, maybe do it yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you all in the next one. Bye.